Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Literally, the exact moment the final whistle blew, the very second the red and blue confetti started raining down on the Seattle Seahawks as the 2025 Super Bowl champions, an invisible, ruthless clock started ticking. You see, the celebration you see on the field, the Lombardi Trophy, the tears, the interviews, it's kind of an illusion. Because behind the scenes, up in the front office, they are absolutely not popping champagne. They are bracing for impact. Because the second you hoist that trophy, you are no longer just a football team. You are the target. You become the empire that all 31 other franchises are actively, obsessively plotting to tear down. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are going deep into the trenches of the most unforgiving, brutal landscape in all of professional sports, the NFL offseason. We're going to dissect the clinical, high-stakes, and honestly, terrifying decisions the Seahawks are making right now just to survive the impending storm. But before we break down the anatomy of this champion, make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus. Hit that like button, comment down below with your thoughts as we go through these moves, and please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. Your support is absolutely crucial and allows us to keep bringing you this level of deep, cinematic NFL analysis. Now, brace yourselves, because the games on the grass, those are over.
The Super Bowl is over. Now the real war begins. And I really want you to take a second and feel the immense weight of this reality. In the National Football League, success is actively penalized. It's literally baked into the rulebook. The salary cap is a mechanism designed specifically to ensure that dynasties die young. Think about it. When you win, your players inevitably demand more money, and rightly so. Your brilliant assistant coaches, they get poached by desperate rival teams looking for a spark. Your draft picks get pushed to the absolute bottom of every single round. Every systemic rule in the NFL is engineered to drag you back down to the swamp of mediocrity. General Manager John Schneider and the Seattle front office, they know this better than anyone on the planet. They know that the roster that just won the championship is, in a way, already dead. It can't be perfectly preserved in amber. It must be meticulously, painfully dismantled and rebuilt, all while the rest of the league watches, waiting like vultures for one fatal mistake.
So that brings us to the crucial question. How do you protect a dynasty? How do you defend an empire when the walls are being breached from the inside out by financial constraints? Well, I can tell you this for sure. You absolutely do not do it with sentimentality. You do it with calculated, almost terrifyingly cold precision. In this league, every single dollar spent is a weapon, and every dollar wasted is a fatal vulnerability. The off-season roster construction is not some casual game of fantasy football. It is a high-stakes, dramatic chess match where one single wrong move, just one overpaid veteran hanging on a year too long, or one missed draft evaluation in the late rounds can send the entire empire crumbling into the dust. So in this explainer, we are going to look at the three critical chapters of Seattle's survival plan. We'll look at the masterstrokes, the terrifying Achilles heel they are desperately trying to hide, and the impending executions on the salary cap chopping block. Let's get into it.
Chapter 1. Securing the Dark Side.
To really understand the Seahawks' strategy right now, you have to completely understand their identity. They did not win the Super Bowl with just offensive fireworks. They won it by dragging opposing offenses into the deep dark water and absolutely drowning them. The Dark Side defense was a revelation last year. It was a suffocating, relentless unit that fundamentally broke the will of the opposition. But keeping a dominant defense together in the modern NFL, it's nearly impossible. The secondary, which is the very heartbeat of this scheme, was facing a mass exodus this offseason. They needed a linchpin. They desperately needed a player who could embody the scheme without completely breaking the bank. And they found him. $24 million. In the vastly inflated economy of NFL cornerbacks, where top-tier talent commands absolute fortunes, we're talking upwards of $20 million a year, the Seattle Seahawks quietly executed a 3-year, $24 million extension that sent absolute shockwaves through the analytical community. And here's the crazy part. They didn't hand this to a household superstar name. They handed it to cornerback Josh Jobe, 28 years old, a player who originally came to Seattle from Philadelphia early in his career, carrying none of that flashy first-round hype, but possessing an absolute clinical mastery of his responsibilities within the dark side scheme. This $24 million commitment keeps Jobe locked in the Pacific Northwest through the 2028 campaign.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive difference between casual fan expectations and actual front office genius. ESPN NFL insider Bill Barnwell looked at everything Seattle did this offseason, every draft pick, every blockbuster rumor, every free agent signing, and he declared this definitively. Quote, "Re-signing Joseph was the best move of Seattle's offseason." End quote. I want you to really think about the gravity of that statement. The defending Super Bowl champion's greatest masterstroke wasn't a flashy trade. It wasn't drafting a quarterback.
It was the stealthy, surgical retention of a versatile defensive back. Why? Well, because in a league completely obsessed with the spectacular, Joseph provides the one thing defensive coordinators crave more than literally anything else: absolute, unshakable reliability, down after agonizing down. Let's look at the actual numbers that prove this.
Just look at the sheer discrepancy between his on-field production and his cost. It's staggering. Over the past 2 years as a starter in Seattle, Jobe posted passer ratings allowed of 76.6 and 77.0. Now let's put that into perspective. In the modern NFL, where the rules are actively designed to help quarterbacks succeed, where illegal contact and pass interference are called tighter than ever before in the history of the sport, holding opposing passers to a rating in the mid-70s is flat-out elite. He played in 15 games last season, racking up 12 passes defensed and an interception. He is a nightmare for receivers. Now look at the financials on the screen. It is a high-stakes gamble that pays out perfectly for Seattle. His cap hit is an immensely affordable $9.5 million in 2026, and the true beauty of this deal, the team holds an option to pay him just $6.5 million in 2027. Like Barnwell noted, Jobe can pay that off just as a third cornerback, let alone as the top-tier lockdown starter he has consistently proven to be. It is an absolute masterpiece of salary cap manipulation by John Schneider.
But you know, there is always a dark side to the dark side, the casualties of success. To secure Josh Jobe on this incredibly team-friendly structure, the franchise had to make agonizing, gut-wrenching decisions elsewhere. They had to look massive, higher-ceiling stars in the eye and literally let them walk out the door. Reek Woolen, Kobe Bryant, Boy Mafe. All three of these incredible talents hit free agency. All three commanded massive, expensive, multi-year contracts elsewhere. And the Seahawks, they simply let them go. It is a brutal, unforgiving reality of team building. You just cannot pay everyone. Look, Woolen might be more athletic with his freakish speed. Mafe might have the flashy edge rush numbers and the devastating bend around the corner. But the front office calculated that Jobe's affordable, versatile efficiency across multiple spots in the secondary was far more vital to the structural integrity of the defense. They are blindly trusting that their overarching defensive scheme, along with incoming, unproven rookies like Bud Clark and Julian Neal, can just naturally replace the departing stars. Make no mistake, it is a massive, massive risk.
Chapter 2: The Glaring Achilles Heel. Every single champion has one, a microscopic flaw that, if struck perfectly, can bring the entire giant crashing down to the earth in ruins. For the Seattle Seahawks right now, this flaw is not hidden in the shadows. It is staring the entire league right in the face. It's the offensive line. A unit that hovered right around the league average last season, but has historically been the exact thing that has hindered and hurt this franchise's ultimate ceiling. The exact same analyst who heavily praised their defensive retention, Bill Barnwell, issued a chilling warning about their offensive negligence. Quote, "Lack of movement on the offensive line was the worst move." End quote. The Seahawks are attempting to carry over almost entirely the exact same unit that protected their quarterback during the Super Bowl run. They are banking their entire season on continuity. But let's be real here, continuity is a violent double-edged sword. When you maintain continuity of excellence, you build a dynasty. But when you maintain continuity of a weakness, you are practically begging opposing defensive lines to end your season violently. The danger awaiting the defending champions in the trenches is incredibly severe.
Okay, let's dive into this massive dichotomy, because it's fascinating. The Seattle offensive line is basically a tale of two completely different, isolated worlds. On the left side, you have pure stability. Last year, the front office made a brilliant first-round selection in the 25 NFL Draft, bringing in Gray Zabel. Zabel provided a massive, immediate, and violent boost to the interior. He is the anchor. He is a primary reason they were able to hoist the Lombardi. But you look over at the right side? The right side is a terrifying liability. This is the absolute domain of right guard Anthony Bradford, and right next to him, you have right tackle Abraham Lucas. Now, Lucas miraculously managed to play all 17 games last year for the first time in his career, but he carries a terrifying looming history of being oft injured with lingering knee issues. If Lucas goes down for even a single snap, the pressure on Bradford magnifies tenfold. And folks, Bradford is already buckling under the weight.
40.8. I want you to burn this exact number into your memory. In the complex, highly mathematical, and critical world of Pro Football Focus grading, 40.8 is not just a bad day at the office. It's not a slump. It is catastrophic. It is the microscopic crack in the foundation that can bring down the entire Seattle offensive system. This is Anthony Bradford's pass blocking grade. Imagine this. When the quarterback drops back to pass on 3rd and long, when the game is entirely on the line, when the opposing defense pins their heirs back and sends their most terrifying edge rushers, this number represents a human turnstile.
Let's dissect this devastating data even further, because the deeper context makes it so much worse. Out of 81 qualified guards in the entire National Football League, Anthony Bradford ranked 70th overall with a grade of 50.6. But that 40.8 pass blocking grade, that ranks 76th out of 81. Just think about that math for a second. Every team starts 2 guards. That means he was in the absolute bottom percentile of players literally paid millions of dollars to protect the franchise quarterback. Even his run blocking, which graded at a meager 54.7, placed him 57th in the league. Opposing defensive coordinators are not blind. They have the tape. They targeted him all season long last year. They isolated him in schemes. They attacked him mercilessly. And yet, the Seahawks did virtually nothing in free agency to bring in veteran competition or a clear, immediate replacement. Bradford is sitting on the very last year of his contract. He is fighting for his professional life, and he is the glaring, pulsing weak spot on a championship roster.
So what is the grand plan here? If they ignored free agency entirely, how on earth are they fixing this gaping hole? Well, the answer is a desperate, long-term safety net. The contingency plan, 5th-round pick Bo Stevens out of Iowa. The front office is heavily gambling that they can miraculously squeeze one final functional year out of Anthony Bradford while simultaneously developing Stevens in the shadows of the practice facility. They desperately want Stevens to provide some semblance of competition in training camp, but the cold reality is, a 5th-round rookie is rarely, if ever, ready to step in and protect a Super Bowl window immediately against elite veteran NFL defensive tackles. They are grooming Stevens to be the successor in 2027 and beyond. It is a massive, massive roll of the dice. If Bradford fails again, and Stevens isn't ready to play, the entire Seattle offense could collapse from the inside out.
Chapter 3. The June Chopping Block.
As the calendar inevitably turns over that magical post-June 1st deadline, the ruthless rules of the salary cap completely change. Guaranteed contracts that previously shackled teams to underperforming players suddenly evaporate. The dead money is allowed to be spread out across future years, and that's when the calculated executions begin. This is not about football on the grass anymore. This is about pure accounting. This is about front offices looking at human beings who have bled for the franchise, reducing them to spreadsheet anomalies, and severing ties to save fractions of $1 million. Look at the financial impact of these potential cuts on your screen. Let's start with guard Christian Haynes. Haynes is entering year 3 of a highly touted 4-year, $5.8 million rookie deal. He was supposed to be the future, but he has been one of the most disappointing players on the entire roster, failing completely to shine when given snaps at center or guard. If the Seahawks cut him after June 1st, they instantly save $1.32 million this season and over $1.5 million next year. The dead cap hit? A mere $260,000. It costs them practically nothing to admit their massive draft mistake and free up a roster spot for a younger, hungrier player. Then you have linebacker Patrick O'Connell, whose release would save the team $1.14 million. In the NFL, loyalty is an absolute illusion. Cap space is the only truth. Let's look much closer at O'Connell's situation because it perfectly illustrates the intense gladiatorial bottleneck happening deep down the depth chart in training camp right now. We'll call it the linebacker war. Playing middle linebacker in the NFL is a brutal, punishing job, and the Seahawks likely only have 4 total spots available on the active 53-man roster. 3 of those spots are completely locked down by Ernest Jones IV, Drake Thomas, and Tyrese Knight. They are entirely safe. They can sleep soundly at night. That leaves exactly 1 spot remaining, and 3 desperate men fighting tooth and nail for their professional survival to claim it: Patrick O'Connell, Chaz Surratt, and Chris Paul Jr. It is a terrifying zero-sum game. If 1 man eats, 2 men starve. It's as simple as that.
So the crucial point of this micro-battle for the final spot really comes down to organizational philosophy. On one side, you have Patrick O'Connell. He is in the final year of a 2-year deal set to pay him $1.145 million. Now, he played well in 9 games last season. He did his job, he has a solid floor, and you know exactly what you are going to get when he steps on the field. But on the other side, you have Chaz Surratt. Surratt is slightly more experienced in the league, and more importantly, the coaching staff has extensively noted his rapid, immediate improvement since arriving in Seattle. If you are John Snyder, sitting in that general manager's chair, evaluating every penny, do you pay over $1 million for O'Connell's solid floor, or do you execute a post-June 1st cut, take the $1.145 million in direct savings, and clear the path for the surging potential and speed of Chaz Surratt? Every single dollar counts when you are desperately trying to keep a Super Bowl window propped open.
Chapter 4: Dynasty or Disaster. This is where all the narrative arcs violently collide. The retention of Josh Jobs to anchor the dark side defense, sacrificing massive, high-ceiling stars to maintain the structural integrity of the system. the terrifying, borderline reckless gamble on the right side of the offensive line, blindly praying that Anthony Bradford can hold the right side together for one more year without getting the quarterback killed. And the brutal, impending June cuts, where draft pedigree and past performance mean absolutely nothing against the cold, hard, unfeeling math of the salary cap. Every single move is a high-wire tightrope walk without a safety net. So I leave you with this. Will these brutal, calculated gambles secure a second ring and cement John Schneider and this Seahawks roster in the annals of NFL history as a true modern dynasty? Or will the completely ignored offensive line, the heavy loss of defensive star power, and the microscopic salary cap margins sabotage the Seattle Empire entirely from within? The pressure of the NFL offseason is immense, and the margins between hoisting another Lombardi and watching your team collapse and ruin are paper thin. I really want to hear your take on this. Sound off in the comments below. Did the Seahawks do enough, or are they walking right into a trap? Don't forget to subscribe to NFL Nexus, like this explainer, and become a channel member to support this deep dive analysis. The clock is relentlessly ticking towards opening kickoff, and you better believe we will be watching.